Joel Edgerton, it's wonderful to talk to you today. How are you?
Very good.
Good. The boys on the boat watched it the other day.
The average human body is just not meant for such things. Most of you will not be chosen.
Beautiful speech, Coach.
You have a lot of heavy lifting to do as the coach of this underdog team. My favourite thing about underdog sports films is the reaction shots.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
No scene is fit without many of them. You know, you're doing a lot of heavy lifting in that one kind of second.
Yeah.
Did you do a lot of practicing in the mirror, and also did you have a system for kind of switching it up each time?
I just was constantly in my mind just going, okay, just how disappointed am I in my own acting? And every time I dropped my head, that's what ended up in the movie. No, there is pressure because, I don't know how I'd fare in a fully CGI world of, those kinds of movies, because I like to see what I'm looking at. Sure. As in, I like it to be there to react to it rather than imagining, dragon flying through the sky. I'm terrified. But what was great, actually, is George and the team had cameras on boats, long lenses, and we were really, for a large part of the time, we were watching the boys actually row. And given that Ulbrichtson is one of those coaches that the zone I was headed for was those coaches that care so much that they look like they're having the worst time in the world. They'd rather be anywhere else. They just look like they're on the verge of a heart attack. And they're angry all the time, but they care.
Yeah.
And so that was sort of easier for me than I think if he was just like a really chipper, positive coach, because then I'd rather grimace than,
Yeah.
smile.
Yeah. It's funny because you're right, Ulbrichtson is a bit more restrained with the reactions than the others, because he's probably like, oh my God, what's happening here? It's working.
Yeah.
So it's a bit different to,
Yeah, it's just the observational aspects of it. It was like, the majesty of understanding through hours of the sport by looking at 8 guys that are not quite in sync, like exactly what's wrong.
Yeah.
And the amount of things that can go wrong, with the fluidity of rowing.
Literally 8 people working as one, madness.
The angle of a wrist and, just the posture and everything that can cause things to fall out of unison. So anyway, I was just sort of, I don't know, had a good time, and I was happy to play the bitter coach rather than, I said, the happy guy.
Yeah, the happy guy.
Yeah.
And obviously being directed by George Clooney, a fellow actor. I know you've been directed by actors in the past, but what is the difference from being director of someone who has, been in your position?
Well, George has done a gazillion films and he's directed a lot. And he's, he really understands an efficiency for what he wants to achieve. He's not he's not fresh out of film school wondering how to put a scene together. He's very confident, knows what he wants to do. And then on a performance level, I think it was sort of nice because he knows what he wants from each character. He trusted me and the guys, and so there was not a lot of trying to tell us exactly how he thinks it should be done or how he would do it if he was playing the role. And that can be the risk sometimes with an actor becoming a director. It's just move aside, let me show you how it should be, and then you do exactly what I said, which was never the case.
Everybody else tires, and it just gets stronger. We have a boat that I believe could qualify for an Olympic spot. Hope you know what you're doing.
Obviously, the camaraderie between the boys is it carries the film. It's wonderful to watch, and I'm sure. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I have a feeling it probably carried off screen as well in between filming. Did you kind of merge with them off camera, or did you kind of keep your distance as the coach?
No, I mean, I was sort of back in the day when I've been involved in kind of ensemble things, it was always part of the joy of doing the film. It's like you're also part of a little kind of fun community, and you go out and you drink or socialise or whatever. I was sort of happy not to participate in that, for the sake of the film and that they were their own unit.
Yeah.
And not that I wasn't welcome, but I also have 2 super young kids, babies, and all I wanted to do at the end of the day in the Cotswolds, I would catch the train at the end of a day's work sometimes just to get back to London quicker.
Yeah.
So I could see the kids before they went to bed and wake up at, ungodly hour to get back to set up there by 6:30. So I was happy just to have my family time, and it suited the film anyway. It's like I didn't need to get it amongst a bunch of 20-year-olds. I'm like, my life's moved into a new phase. Absolutely. I'm wearing cardigans now, you know what I mean?
I feel like I'm at your phase, even though I'm a bit younger, and I feel, I'm happy with that.
Look forward to it. Great thing for me is I was always like, I hope that when I'm like settled down and have a family that I don't suffer any FOMO, that I'm missing out on something.
Yeah, and you don't.
Zero FOMO.
Great.
Someone called it JOMO. Can you guess what that is? The joy of missing out.
I was going to say something to do with Joel, but
no.
It's the joy of missing out. You've got JOMO.
So I'm sorry I can't come to your thing. I'm going to stay home and do nothing.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Not to have to come up with an excuse.
Yeah, no.
Just to like guilt-free.
Blame your kids, man.
Yeah. Your Ulbrichtson is a great character, obviously a real man, a real coach. Do you kind of not have a preference, but what's your process when there's kind of something to go on an existing character?
Well, it wasn't a lot to go on, you know, and because he's not someone that if you walked out on the street and said, you know,
people know who Ulbrichtson is.
Like, oh yeah, he's not indelible. Like, you know, I always like, I get sweaty and nervous for actors when they take on roles that are like, oh, you're gonna play Elton John, okay, good luck, you know.
Yeah.
And they always rise to the occasion, but when I think about myself doing that, it's like, that'd be terrifying.
Would you just not do it?
Oh, I don't know, depending on who it was. I mean, I don't even know if there's anyone that interesting in the history of the world that looks like me. I think there was an American president at some point, but would you make a movie about him? The Ulbrichtson is just a guy that we have photos of and a few facts of. So there was sort of a zero pressure for me, but his photographs look exactly like my grandfather, which made me think he's of a similar part of the world. Anyway, I know that. And I just kept seeing my grandfather's face in his, you know, he's long gone now, but the way my grandfather dressed in old photos and the shape of his face and everything. So, but yeah, it was a creation of myself plus a script with conversations with George. So there was a certain freedom to that, rather than I've got to follow an exact track of something.
For what it's worth, I'm proud of you boys.
Inspiring.
You missed the part where I told him not to tip over.
So at The Independent, we like to shine a light on hidden gems from an actor's back catalogue. And hidden gems and also films that you might think deserve more love and didn't get it at the time for whatever reason. So I'd like to give you the opportunity to go to bat for one of your films.
I would shine a light on a film my brother and I made together back in, it was, partly because of its sentimental family value, you know, for me, is a movie called, titled The Square. It was a noir film that my brother and I made back in 2008. First film that we'd made, you know, together, that we were involved behind the scenes. He directed it, I wrote it, and I'm in it. I don't know where you can find it. I'm sure it's on iTunes.
Okay.
But it was a really interesting film, and it I think it was A.O. Dowd or someone, like quite a prominent international reviewer, who had put it on a list of these kinds of sort of hidden gem, kind of like unknown films of the year that were worth watching. That would be one I would shine a light on. Go sniff that out.
Yeah, sure.
To.
Do you have a particular memory? I mean, working with your brother obviously is a big one, but any kind of memory you'd like to share about the film?
It was, I think there was this sort of weird vibe between the two of us where every step of the way, we kept looking at each other going, I can't believe people gave us money to make a movie. Like, you know, we'd made a bunch of short films and we'd put in the work before that stage to prove that we cared about filmmaking and that we'd made things off the smell of an oily rag. And, you know, I think we just couldn't believe that, you know, the Australian government, state government, and private financiers were going to trust us to make a film. Not that we didn't feel trustworthy, but we were like, oh, this is cool.
It's like a pinch me thing.
Yeah, and it was something we dreamed of for a long time. And we shot it on, it was one of those films that back in the day, we shot it on film, Super 16. And it was just a wonderful experience and proof that we could do it, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd shove my little spotlight on that.
Nice. And what happened like when it got released? What did it do a festival run or?
No, it just sort of came out at the Australian box office. Didn't make a lot of money. There wasn't any stars in it. You know, like I'd been in a few movies, but certainly no Hugh Jackman, and no other sort of prominent people in it. And look, you know, it may not be a film for everybody, but it just sort of was like, okay, and then it came out and you like put all that work into it and then it's a few weeks at the cinema. But movies live on.
Absolutely.
Especially if people see your interview and go, I'm just going to check it out.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, I don't care.
And there's someone who can help us.
Once it's done, you wipe it away. Never happened, we never know.
This is my hope with the piece. It's like people who there's such amount of films to watch every new week, and people might watch this and seek it out and have a new favourite film. You know, that's the hope with this piece. So.
Yeah, look, you know, and the thing about movies, you know, I just was on the jury at Marrakesh, and you're seeing films, you go, I know they're not going to end up at the AMC or like the big cinema chains, Curzon or whatever. Some of them might. But, man, I get inspired by first, second-time filmmakers who are bold, tell a story that they want to tell in the way that they want to tell it. Yeah. They're not trying to fit into a form. And there's just, you know, anything to keep cinema alive. And I appreciate that some of my favourite films I'll watch for the first time on streamers.
Yeah.
Or that get released on streamers. And that's obviously got to bend to the new world. But I just hope that cinema doesn't, you know, come to an end because of digital stuff. Because it's such a great thing to go and watch a movie in the cinema with a crowd. Particular movies, you know, you kind of want that experience.
This is a great film to watch with a crowd.
I think so. I think, you know, you start to now, I think certain movies are getting pushed out of that space. But there are movies that you go, horror movies, comedies, you know, big event sort of movie like this, or obviously action films and all that stuff. They can live in the cinema and people want to commune, you know.
It's the immersion.
And I can understand why some financiers are reluctant to take that gamble. But just can't let it die. Mm-hmm. But I do sometimes wonder, am I like, you know, my grandparents were like, we can't let them shut the drive-in cinema down. And I was like, who cares, you know? But now I see why they care.
Yeah, now you see.
Because it's an institution.
Yeah.
And it's a thing to do that's special.
One last question before I leave you today. If you could revisit a character that you've played in the past, which would you pick?
Interesting. My goodness. You know what character I really love playing? Because he's sort of like a lot more kind of verbose than many other people I'd ever played. Was the character I played in Black Mass.
Oh, yeah.
John Connolly. Because he was just so, like, improvised, slippery, kind of, you know, walls closing in, and there was something really pleasurable about being on set, doing all of that stuff.
Yeah. And
not that I would, you know, suggest it because I think there's a sequel or a prequel in it, but I had a real pleasure doing that. They're all a pleasure. They're all like, what's the equalizer tuned up and down for each character? And that's always part of the fun and the discovery of what you need to do for a movie.
We all need friends. Even Jimmy. Even you.
Well, I think that's all we've got time for today.
Cool.
So I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man.